United Airlines allowed a sick man on the airplane. Um, they did not have him cover with a mask or anything else, which made it with us that we lost our vacation to Disneyland, which cost us $20,000. So I want other people to know what to do when this happens to them with United and sick passengers so they don't lose their vacation like we did. Well, we go on an annual Disney trip every year, and we left on November 13th of this year of 2022, and it was our first time going for Christmas. And we everything was fine. We got to the airport. We got on the airplane from Medford to go to LAX, and seemed okay. And then once we got up in the air after takeoff, the man 2 seats across from my husband took off his mask and started coughing, and he wasn't coughing a little bit, like he was and like he was all red and sweating, and he progressively just kept getting worse and worse and worse, and he wouldn't cover his mouth. He took his mask off. My husband and I looked at each other because our kids were in front of us. They're all teenagers, and we were like, oh my God, because we paid almost $20,000 for this vacation. We were staying at the Disney Grand Hotel and all this stuff. So I waited to see if maybe the flight attendants were going to do something, ask him to put his mask back on or something like that. Then it's like he just kept coughing more. And then he had snot running down his nose. He was like shaking. You could tell he had a fever. And as they came around with the drink carts, I asked the flight attendant, I said, can you have him put on his mask? And she's like, oh, yeah, yeah. Well, she never asked him to put on his mask. They never even asked him to cover his mouth. So for like the over an hour that we were in the air, he is just, not coughing all the time. Like he's like, all the time. And I was like, oh my God, if we get sick, this ruins our entire vacation. So, I was really upset that they didn't do anything about it, especially when I asked, and especially when you check in for your flight, 24 hours before, you have to check and say that you don't have any symptoms of COVID, you're not sick or any of that stuff. And obviously he was deathly sick. And this wasn't a sickness like he was sick. This was a virus sickness. And so finally the plane lands, and the stewardess or flight attendants never made him put on a mask, never asked him to cover his mouth, nothing. And we're like the ones directly across from him. And so we try and get off the plane as fast as possible. So we get off the plane and we're standing right outside the plane to go down the little runway walkway to back into the airport. And we had to stand there to wait for our carry-ons because they were underneath. And as we're standing there, we look, and United is bringing a wheelchair for this guy because he is so deathly sick, he can't even walk. And we're like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And so we were like, okay, let's just get our stuff and go. So we checked into our motel. And then the next day, which was the 14th of November, was our first day in Disneyland. So everybody was doing fine. And then the next day, which was our second day in Disneyland, my daughter and her girlfriend were kind of feeling off. They weren't feeling very good. And we were just hoping it was because they were tired. And so every afternoon we come back and take a break or a nap from Disneyland. Well, we went back to take a break, and my daughter woke up deathly sick, like deathly sick. And by that evening, she was vomiting. She had a fever, and she was coughing just like the man on the airplane. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. And you can't get a refund from Disneyland once you use your tickets. So, we had 4 days in the park and they only went a day and a half. So, and then she just kept getting sicker and sicker. And then by that night, her girlfriend was deathly sick. So both of them were so sick, we couldn't even, like me and my husband and my other daughter, we couldn't go to the park. We couldn't do anything. We were stuck in our motel the rest of our vacation. And she was so sick. She was crying. And she was so upset. She's like, I ruined the vacation. I'm like, you didn't ruin the vacation, honey. I'm like, the man that they let in the airplane that was sick ruined the vacation. And so it was awful. We lost all this money. And then when we got back, we went to the doctor right away. And they both tested positive for influenza A. And then I called the airline right after we got back to complain because I'm like, we just lost $20,000 from the sick man on the airplane, and they didn't do anything at all to help it or try and make it better. And they said, oh, file your online complaint with the complaint with United. So I did that. And they said, oh, they'll get a hold of you by the 13th of December. So I called again like a week later and nothing. And they're like, just do the complaint form. So I did another one. I ended up doing 3, and no one has got a hold of me. No one has emailed me back. No one has called me back. And this was started in November. And now we're in January, and I've got nothing from United. And I also emailed I think it was the assistant vice president of one of the things for United. No email back, nothing. So here we are. They neglected to do what they were supposed to do as an airline. And then no one will even contact me. And so it's like we had my children, this was supposed to be our Christmas Disneyland vacation. Instead of presents, this was our vacation. So it's like, we were so upset, and my husband and I were so upset. It was just awful. And all this could have been prevented if they wouldn't have allowed him on the plane, or at least the minute he started coughing, like make him put on a mask and cover his mouth so that at least he's not exposing everybody constantly, but not doing anything for over an hour and just letting him cough everywhere. I don't even know how many other people probably got sick. But yeah, it completely ruined it, and I'm very upset with them. A refund of our tickets, our flight, and some sort of compensation for losing a $20,000 vacation. And this wasn't anything of our fault. It was their fault. So I would like them to compensate us in some form and refund us our airplane tickets.